We've all seen the movie The Matrix. It was interesting and fun on the big screen of the TV, but has it become a bit too real in your own life? Are you seeing glitches in the Matrix and trying to figure out what's happening? Have you been told that you've been tricked and that you need to fight against what they've done to you? The deception. Whether you're just beginning to notice, or if you've been searching for a more peaceful and congruent way to live without battling them, you're in the right place. I'm Ken, and I'll be joined by Eliza and Reina Stella. Let's explore together on the Liberty Ark. We're back to the Liberty Ark Podcast. I'm Ken, and Eliza and Reina Stella are here with me tonight. We got a fun, interesting conversation this evening, I think. You guys ready for this?
Ready.
Sure, I'm Ken. Okay. And great to see you both.
Thank you. As always, we're going through a book called The Great International Heist by Rebecca and Jonathan Rodrigues, and we're developing some topics that I think you're going to find a lot of fun this evening. We're starting to get a little more practical with current day. We'll have a little bit of historical stuff here at the very beginning, but then we'll get into more practical stuff for your day-to-day life that I think will be really helpful as part of tonight's program. So, Eliza, I'm going to start you off there and let you start running, okay?
All right, here we go. Episode 22, Modern Money, the Legacy of Slavery and Indenture. The concepts of slavery and indenture have permeated modern money in several fundamental ways. These historical practices have evolved into sophisticated financial instruments and systems that continue to bind individuals and societies in economic servitude. Below is an analysis of how these concepts manifest in today's financial systems. Indenture in the modern context refers to the binding contracts that individuals enter into, such as mortgages, student loans, and credit card debt. These contracts are similar to the historical indenture agreements where future labor and earnings are pledged to repay the borrowed sums. For instance, a mortgage indentures the borrower's future income to the lender until the debt is paid off. The borrower is effectively an indentured servant, working to fulfill the terms of the contract. Chattel historically referred to movable property, including slaves. In modern finance, this concept extends to personal property that can be used as collateral for loans. For example, vehicles are chattel that can be repossessed if the borrower defaults on their loan. This practice maintains the notion of individuals' property being bound to the fulfillment of their financial obligations. The creation of a trust involves splitting the title into legal and equitable components. This mechanism is widely used in modern financial systems to manage and control assets. When individuals take out loans, they often place their assets in trust, with the bank or financial institution acting as the trustee. This split title ensures that the lender retains control over the asset until the debt is fully repaid. This system mirrors the historical use of trusts in indenture agreements, where the future labor of the indentured servant was placed in trust as collateral. Bonds in the financial world are debt securities that bind the issuer to repay the borrowed amount with interest. These instruments can be traded, sold, and exchanged, similar to how the future labor of indentured servants was monetized and traded. Modern bonds represent a promise to pay, backed by the issuer's future revenue streams, akin to the historical practice of hypothecating future labor. A surety in modern finance is a third party that guarantees the repayment of a loan. This concept is rooted in the historical practice where a surety was required to ensure the performance of the bonded individual. In today's financial systems, insurance companies often act as sureties. They provide a guarantee that the borrower will fulfill their obligations. This ensures lenders that their investments are protected, maintaining a system of economic bondage. Bankruptcy is a legal status where individuals or corporations are declared unable to repay their debts. Modern bankruptcy laws allow for the restructuring of debts but often result in the continued economic bondage of the individual or entity. This is because even after bankruptcy, many debts remain. The individual continues to be bound by financial obligations. The perpetual debt system mirrors the historical bondage of indentured servants and slaves, where the debt could extend indefinitely. The legacy of slavery and indenture has profoundly influenced modern money mechanics. Through various financial instruments and systems, individuals continue to be bound by their financial obligations, often for life. Understanding these connections helps illuminate the continuing impact of these historical practices on contemporary economic structures.
That's the last slide, and I think that one summarizes things up really well and brings us current. Now, last week we did a lot of conversation over history and a story of a couple of different slavery and indentured servant kind of situations historically. This week, what we're going to do is bring this up to a more current situation. And that term that it used here, mirroring, is really good, I think. It demonstrates how they don't call us slaves or indentured servants now, but effectively, that's exactly what's happening because of the structure of the system. And it creates this situation where people are bound their entire life, which is exactly what slavery was. You just don't see the chains. So we're going to go back to the beginning here, and then whoever wants to pipe in there, go right ahead.
So as we move forward with this read, right, that Rebecca and Jonathan, do an amazing job in helping us realize how important it is to go back and understand history. That's number one. I think it's super important to do that. Personally, I didn't, or I realized slavery didn't just disappear. I think they're just presenting it to us, I guess, in a different uniform or clothing, right? And not in a negative way. I say all of it is, of course, to their advantage due to, again, not in a negative way, our negligence and maybe our laziness. We fall for it every time based on history. Again, going the fact that they started us off on this ebook with understanding what brought us to where we are today is very, very important to understand that history does make a difference as we're learning this information. But what I would like, if we can please break down the old practices, right? That pretty much shape the way money works today. So it's the same as in the past. There's only a difference of them presenting it to us a little bit different, right? Which is in forms of contracts, loans, and debt. We can just touch on that a little bit because just to clarify it, though we've discussed it in past episodes, I think it's important to just repeat it.
Mm-hmm. I think Eliza would be fabulous at explaining that.
And Eliza, before you touch on it, like personally, repeating also, initially, right? Finding this information, it did cause a lot of anger, right? And it led me to research further and realize that there are processes available, right, to help us, place us in a peaceful mode and have that anger disappear. And of course, we'll get to discussing those processes soon. But I think it's very important that we fully understand, what Rebecca and Jonathan have provided for us. So yes, Eliza, if you don't mind, if we can just touch on, those disguised, what they're disguised in today, contracts, loans, debts. Touch on it a little bit.
Absolutely, and that's a great premise for it. Everyone understands slavery, where you give everything, but you kind of get nothing in return. There's no contract. But indenture, look through history, there was some contract with some carrot that you had the possibility to receive at the end. And it was what you had to pay in was some sort of asset or energy in return for the carrot. And that's what we are doing. And we don't realize that we have all of these contracts going where we look at the carrot and we don't see that there's a lot of energy, asset, etc., where we've bound ourselves. And a lot of times we don't even see that when we're being told that this thing, we call it persons, we call it basically one thing is responsible and it looks like free stuff. We don't realize that we are binding ourselves to the thing that is actually paying for the carrot. We're binding ourselves to be responsible for it, and many times for our entire lives. And it's kind of cryptic the way it's presented to us, and maybe even the way I'm saying it, but we are constantly entering a contract thinking so much of the time that the carrot is either free or is a lot less costly than it really is.
Or that you don't have any choice.
Not realizing what we don't, or we do, we're told basically take it or leave it, or sometimes it's like you take it at all costs because you don't have a choice. You're absolutely right, Ken.
Now, you can go back to feudal times, right? There was a trade-off there. The king owned all the land, and the subjects got something from the arrangement, right? Because the king also had an army and kept them safe and allowed them to work the land. So they weren't slaves from the standpoint of whips and chains, but they were provided something and they stayed under control of the king and supported the king in order to receive something back from the king, the ability to survive, basically, right? And protection. Then in the indentured slavery stuff, like the story last week, the girl wanted to come to the New World and she didn't have enough money to do it. So she promised her future labor and indentured herself to a period of time of basically slavery, but indentured servitude, in order to pay that off. And you hear a lot about that today with immigrants coming over, that commit to future labor because they don't have the money. And so the cartels and so forth arrange it to where they'll pay to get them over here, but then they owe something back. So most of us don't think we've done that as we write our check out for our mortgage and use all of our energy to generate what we call money or currency in order to pay for survival, basically. And that's how we pass our day.
Yeah. And how do you keep the people under control? You continually raise the price of survival so that there is no time, energy, or currency, what most people call money, but currency left. In fact, you're short at the end of the month, but there is no choice. You either survive and take part in the indenture or you die.
Rena, Stella, you look like you have something to say.
No, just definitely, just doing that comparison of we are still maybe a little bit different, but we're still in that role per se, just a different way. And that's really what I wanted to help myself with the understanding, but also anybody that may be, in the same confusion.
I would offer this concept to think through. Oppression. Okay. In the past, the oppression was more obvious, right? It was the king has got you under control, or the Lord or whatever is reigning over the people has got you under control. Now the system is designed in such a way that you're under control, even though nobody's standing over you, being the one directly oppressing you, but you are oppressed by the mere fact that the system works the way the system works.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make logical sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Very much. You remember the old company towns, if anyone ever studied history, you see in the old movies, the coal miner towns. Okay, there's only one place to work, and it was the coal mines. But the company, basically the mine owners, they own the store. They basically they owned your homes. You charged your rent. Okay, everything. And they would raise the prices. It was all very expensive. Raise the prices so people did not have excess and would have to continue to work harder. Now, what is happening with rents and food? There a lot of excuses are given to it. Oh, it's supply chain issues or this or that. Things don't double and stay doubled, right? The way they are. And they're always, it's shortage, it's whatever it is. But it's the same system. In this case, for me, history isn't just, they say history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. In this case, it's just full on repetition.
Mm-hmm.
Just a different flavor of the month.
So they print more money. That resolves everything, doesn't it?
Money. It does.
But
it's not coming our way. The printing is not coming.
Well, but even when it
our way.
does,
Yeah.
The fact that there's more money chasing the same goods means you're in the same spot, right?
Up.
Because the price is just raised to meet that, right? So they print more money. That dilutes the value of the money as far as what you can actually purchase with it. So even though you got more money, it buys the same or less than before,
Right.
even though it's a higher price. Does that make sense?
Exactly. But if wages don't double commensurate with the price increases, you're poorer by the end of the month. And that's a real issue, but it's purposeful. It's not that it just didn't happen. It purposely doesn't happen because the system isn't built that way.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
That's a good point, Rena. Stella.
Anything on here we need to hit?
Yeah, I think we covered that in our discussion there.
We pretty well covered that historical stuff there. We're going to kind of roll forward to get to the more current kind of situation here for tonight's discussion. That one wouldn't be a bad thing to talk a little bit about. Mortgage indentures, the borrower's future income. And now we're hearing, and this is not meant to be a current topic kind of podcast, really, but this one is just hard not to talk about. An attempt to create a 50-year mortgage and a 15-year car loan. Now, it's interesting, Raina Stella, you'll understand this from Latin America, for example. You have to pay a lot of money down, and you get like a 10-year loan max on a house, right? So it's hard for people to buy houses, but you're also not locked in for the rest of your life. They've made it, because the theoretic American dream, that's presented as a positive thing, isn't it? Everybody in America is supposed to be able to buy a house, right? Well, even in the old days, it moved from a 5-year loan to a 10-year loan to a 15-year loan to a standardized 30-year mortgage, right? So, yeah, everybody gets to buy a house, and they pay for it for the rest of their life. And that's really called rent, isn't it? That's not called owning. That's called renting. But they give you the illusion of ownership, even though you never really own it. You're paying on it your whole life. So let's go to 50 years. Therefore, now we're finding that people, the average age of being able to even afford a loan is way higher today than it's been in the past. And now we extend it to 50 years. So you're going to have to do a reverse mortgage loan at 80 years old in order to even be able to stay in your house that you've been paying on your entire life.
And at any point, that house, if you mess up or get on hard times, at any point, you could lose the whole thing, everything you've paid on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just even to the point of after it's paid off, you can still have that possibility of losing your house simply by not having enough to pay for property tax.
Yep. Because that printing of money increases the property values on which the property taxes are based. So many older people get to a point where they just can't afford to keep the house that they've had their whole life and paid off. But the property values around them have gotten so high they can't even afford to pay the property tax. And so they lose their house or have to sell the house and move someplace else.
Heartbreaking.
It's pathetic.
20, 30, 50-year loans for a home, right? Pledging our future income, right, forever, just to pay them off. But I do have to even say that, let's say that 50-year mortgage wasn't being promoted. On average, because of everything we've mentioned so far, by default, we tend to extend that original 30-year loan further. How? By refinancing. Because we're in trouble, whether it's because on this end, right, whether it's our basic living expenses we can't afford to pay, so we now start utilizing credit cards for them. Now we've maxed out our credit cards. And now we need a way out to be able to, cover our week-to-week expenses. So if we have a home and we've paid 12 years into it or 20 years into it, and now the value of the home is up, we extend our 30-year mortgage further. So again, yes, they're offering it, but then even if they weren't, we position ourselves further into that mode. So it's back to when you start hearing this information, don't ignore it. Inform yourself, knowledge, research, to not fall into those traps or not continue to fall into those traps is so important.
And we get really... we get really encouraged through advertising, through all kinds of things, to don't let that equity sit there. Put it to work by buying stuff you don't need. It's really what the encouragement comes down to. Stuff. Everybody needs more stuff.
More debt, which means more slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and in Australia, the maximum loan is for 5 years.
Wow.
Okay. you're not expected to pay it off, but you have to refinance every 5 years. So if you've locked in a low loan rate, that goes out the window in 5 years. The revalue, then the value of the house is revalued, everything. I mean, it is a slavery system, but what it does is it keeps the house values very high, and everyone is encouraged as part of their retirement package to be buying homes and hold them for rental. It is just such a debt slavery system.
And Eliza, do you find like there's a lot more renters because of that?
Yes, and now those have doubled because of the excuses, COVID, etc. It's insane now what the rental prices are. And so we have like that. We have the same system now. We have a housing shortage, and then we have it's too hard to buy. You have to. People are not earning enough, but then you're forced into renting somewhere. You're not going to be out in the street, right? Mm-hmm. So now it's like more and more is going into rent, more and more is going into food, because those prices have doubled easily. But I can tell you, wages here have not doubled. Yeah. So, but this is a common problem everywhere. But each country has its system, but none of the systems allow people to get ahead and feel like they can rely upon, like, relax into retirement. I don't know how people are retiring, really.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Overall, unless they do very well for themselves.
Yeah, and that's
especially our young crowd.
Yep.
Yeah,
and that takes us to the Chattel and Collateral, right, of things. Again, it becomes a sad situation, right? Because we've been really good with our finances. We've been, great, workers, being on time and getting our paycheck every week and not missing a payment with our car payment or our mortgage payment. But the fact that we're bound to, if we do miss a payment, right, even though you've been great for 12 years, right, you miss one payment, they can now take your home away or start the process or the threats or the letters that your house will now be taken. It's just the situations we are in.
Yeah. Because the fine print in that contract, we don't really understand what our position is there, nor the terms in those 90 pages that we were given to sign.
And people are excited at that moment. Mm-hmm. And even if you've thought it through and you're in people always say, I can afford this payment, right? Well, yeah, you can, as long as this job you're in lasts, right? But you're reliant. Most people are reliant on that paycheck every month in order to just meet their current obligations. So all it takes is one loss of a job of one person in the household, and you got big troubles on your hands. And even if you can survive for a period of time, you're getting backwards and everything. And then you got to try to catch up somehow if you do end up getting a job back.
We're all told to have 3 to 6 months living expenses and savings, but it's harder and harder to do that. People have used that up.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. For the people who did accomplish it, they're now having to dip into it.
Right.
So. And not able to replenish it.
Yeah. So this one's talking about a mortgage, which specifically related to homes, but the same thing happens on non-real estate kind of transactions like cars and so forth, which are referred to as chattel, or have been in the past referred to as chattel. So the same kind of thing happens when you put your car or some other asset up as collateral for a loan. Same thing as what's going on with the house. So let's move that to 15 years so you can, that's even worse, right? I mean, number one, the newer houses, the houses that are the way they're being built nowadays, they're not even going to last 50 years, So you got a mortgage that's going to be, your house is going to be falling apart by the time the mortgage is ever paid off. And cars, a real common one now, from what I understand, is 7-year loan on a car. And most cars don't hardly last that long. And now they want to move it to 15.
All I can say is that after 5 years of having a brand new car, you start having issues.
Yeah.
So by the time, if you have a 7-year loan, you already have issues, beginning, right?
Yep.
Imagine 15.
Holy smokes.
Right when that warranty is up, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The problems start. They know exactly.
Yeah.
And also,
we haven't even talked about.
No, go ahead, Eliza. Go ahead, Eliza.
No, it was just, and we haven't even jumped into consumer debt regarding credit cards, where people, when they get behind, then they go to the credit card, and then there's the slippery slope.
Yep.
I got an offer in the mail the other day that they thought they were doing something really special for me. They were offering me a credit card that had a 30% interest rate on it. I just laughed my butt off.
Gosh.
I can't imagine anybody would accept that. Can you believe it?
Desperate
How
people.
many people would accept that?
Lots.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is even allowed. That 30%. That's the usury. The even the concept is I'll just say is criminal in my opinion.
I agree.
100%. But think about the hard times people are going through, and if they get offered, the percentage doesn't matter to them. They're just going to have something to survive.
Yep.
So one thing that I wanted to mention as we get into the next paragraph there, again, once you start with this information, like you want to dig into more and more information. I didn't know that when we get into a situation like a car loan, a credit card, a mortgage, it's placed into trust. And the banks or the lenders are the trustees. Therefore, again, if we miss a payment, the house, the car is collateral. So that's the reason why the banks are really able to step in and take it from you.
And we haven't really talked a lot about definitions within trust, but we'll get into that. But the important thing to consider there is that the trustee, who you just said, is the one that holds legal title. A trust splits title, legal title, and what's called beneficial title, okay, or beneficial ownership. So you get to use the car, but you don't have the title to the car because you don't own it until that debt is paid off. It's exactly what we described earlier as the indenture, right? So the bank is the trustee that actually owns the car, and they're letting you use it as long as you keep making the payments. Mm-hmm. But if you don't make the payments, they take it back, and they don't give you a reimbursement of the funds you've already paid. They just take it back.
And I would love to hear that explanation on a home because it's so important. Like, it was an eye-opener to know that I was a tenant of my home.
Yep.
And not the owner of the home.
Yep.
I'm a tenant.
There's two ways.
Beneficial
Go ahead.
use. And it's just in a non-judicial state where things are held in trust, where without warning, without going to court, nothing, because it is the trust and the legal ownership, the power is with the trustee, they can foreclose on you that day.
Yeah, there's two different ways different state law works. One is if you hear you normally hear mortgage as the term used for your loan, but there are states that use mortgages and there are states that use deeds of trust. Okay, so and what you were saying is true. Yeah, in the deed of trust states, it's non-judicial, right? So they don't have to go to a court. In mortgage states, they actually at least get held off for a while because a court has to be involved in the process. But that term deed of trust, I mean, that tells you we're in a trust here, right? And they've got the deed. They've got the deed. You don't have it. They've got the ownership. You call it your house, but it's not your house. You get use of it.
House.
As a renter would, because you're effectively a renter. It's just
was an eye opener for me.
I bet. For many people.
And even after that, even though you, and this is another topic for another day, who we think is us, our legal us, or you own the house, you don't own the house. That is a cryptic statement, but we'll get into that a long time ago. I mean, a long time away a bit.
Yeah, that's a tough one for people to pick up, but very important once we get there. But you can pay on that house for 25 years and then run into hard times and they can take the whole thing and you've lost everything you've put into it for 25 years.
And that's indenture servitude because there is a contract, there's a carrot at the end, which is no more mortgage payments, but getting to live in the house. And if you are a bad slave, a bad whatever, you lose it.
Yep.
So nothing's changed. In fact, I think it's gotten a bit worse.
I think so too.
Yeah.
It's just not, it's not structurally worse from the standpoint of being beaten, physically injured.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I think it's worse. Yeah. And it's certainly more spread out among the masses as opposed to limited to certain groups as far as the slavery component. Okay.
So bottom line, like average English language is banks are in control. Lenders are in control until the debt is paid.
Yep.
And this is a global issue, right? Mm-hmm. This is just the U.S.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay. So this is just saying that cars or movable things are the same way. Same exact situation. Okay. Now, this is getting into the split title that we were just talking about, which actually took me a long time to understand. And I'm just now really, really grasping conceptually what's going on with the trust arrangement and the split title. Trusts are used on you all the time, as we just talked about. And trust can be used by you and for you too, if you know how to do it. So they can be a very positive thing. Like any other tool, you can use them or you can be used by them, basically. But if you don't understand them, you're just going to be used by them because you're not going to know how to interact with it.
But it is something that we should keep in mind, that we should plan on it. Mm-hmm. Trust, keep this in mind. Trusts are very important. They're a very important role as we move forward. Mm-hmm. So it's very important that you're open-minded to learning what they're all about. We use them every day. Mm-hmm. We just don't know.
Yeah, and the bankers wield them very, very... The bankers and the lawyers know how to use them. Normal people normally don't know how to use them. And the types of trust that your lawyer will tell you about are not the kind of trust we're talking about. That's an attempt to make you think you have a trust. But it's not really the best way to do it most of the time, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. But we'll get into that as we go too. But the trust involves a splitting of the title into legal and equitable components. This is a hard thing for people to understand. I don't expect most people to grab what we're talking about there, but just realize basically what it comes down to is somebody else owns legally virtually everything you're using. And that's
because you've agreed to it.
Because you've agreed to it. And it's not all bad, right? But you can make it work for you if you understand it. You can create that same type of relationship that the people that know how to use it are using on you. You can use it for you if you know how. This is just saying basically what we've just said. So I'm going to go on. Mm-hmm.
So really quick, Ken, I just want to clarify that it's pretty much what the lenders and banks use on us. If we're willing to put in the time to learn how to utilize them to our advantage, we will be able to do the same exact thing or do the same as what they're doing. We are going to be able to do also.
Yeah,
by utilizing trust.
They're using it to create a collateralized situation where you have to keep paying them. When we use them, that's not really what we're doing. What we're doing is making sure things don't get taken away from us. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense.
And one way, just on that slide,
this one
way to view that, it's like, well, we no longer have the labor of the indentured servant being put forward in order to pay for the freedom. Okay, what we have, because the car dealership or whoever owns the house, they don't need you to go over and lay bricks for them or cut the grass or do whatever. They don't need directly your labor. So what we do is we have a common way of trading our labor around, which is currency, right? And that's how we're doing it. But in effect, so for people who are not grasping that we are in effect paying with our energy and our labor, it's just we're turning it into a common way that people will accept in exchange. But it is no different than the old indentured servitude. Of offering our labor.
Now, the really nasty component of it, and this is going to be really hard for people to understand, is that when you go get that mortgage, you think the bank loaned you the money to buy the house. So you think you owe that money back to the bank because you think they took their money and loaned it to you. But that's not how it works. They don't have money in an account that they take out of their account and give to you. They create the money based upon your signature on a promissory note. It's a legal process. There's legislation that allows it, but money is actually created, not handed to you, created by the act of giving that loan. So it's not like the bank has $300,000 in their account and they move it over to your account. They don't have money in their account. They just put digits in your account. And it's an accounting transaction. That's all it is a book ledger account or a transaction. And that's as an ex-accountant, that took me a long time to understand how that's working, right? But we have this feeling that the bank, went out on a limb and loaned you money. No, they didn't. They created money, fake money, and you purchase the house with the fake money, and then you pay the rest of your life giving them money in return that they never even loaned you to begin with. They just created it. Okay. So on this one, we're relating it to what's really going on today with bonds, which people hear about and talk about, treasury bonds and so forth. But I don't know how deep we want to go into discussion over that. I think there's a general familiarity with people that bonds exist, but not necessarily how they're created and what they represent. Generally, I think from a corporate standpoint, people would probably be able to relate to it better than government bonds, because corporations can basically fund themselves, capitalize themselves two primary ways. One is through stockholders, and the other is through floating bonds or selling bonds. In other words, they're just borrowing money and creating a bond, which is a promise to pay back, basically. So you can purchase a bond, and when you purchase it, what you're doing is basically loaning money to the corporation, and then they have a responsibility to pay it back. So it's exactly the opposite of what we're used to with us borrowing money from the bank. Here, the corporation is borrowing money from some outside source and calling it a bond as the security, as opposed to when you're borrowing from the bank, they're holding collateral, and you're paying them back the loan from a promissory note. But it's the same thing, just backwards. Does that make sense, kind of?
So they're both promises to pay.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So with a bond, it's coming your way. I mean, you're upfronting the money, and then the company owes you that, or the corporation owes that money back to you in some future date or some future form with interest. So that's how one of the ways that the corporation gets the funds or the capital to be able to run the business, and they pay interest to get that capital up front to fund the business. So modern bonds represent a promise to pay backed by the issuer's future revenue streams. So if it's a corporation that's issuing the bond, they're basically issuing, I mean, what it really comes down to is they're issuing you a promissory note to pay you back. And that's based on the probability that the corporation will earn money, future revenue, sufficient to pay you that loan back. Does that make sense? Okay. And that's akin to what's called the historical practice of hypothecating future labor. In other words, loaning against the promise based on this probable future earning capacity that you've got. Okay. So they're not collateralizing an asset. When you purchase a bond from a corporation, you're giving them money. You're not getting collateral. They're not handing you a car or something that you can say, okay, I can take that if you don't pay me back, like a bank does to us. They're guaranteeing or saying we're going to be able to pay you back because we're projecting these future earnings that will allow us to pay it back. And that's hypothecation. That's guaranteeing, effectively using the future labor or the future earnings of the company as the collateral to secure that loan or to validate that loan. Now, bonds sometimes don't get paid back, right? If the company fails in the meantime, they may not be able to pay that back if their future revenues don't match what their expectations are.
Just like with treasuries, those bonds are collateralizing all of the people's future earning power,
yep,
their future labor.
Yep.
So we have on a company level, and then we have on a country level.
And on a country level,
it is our promise, and on our private level, we're promising our labor in return for, say, some piece of collateral.
Mm-hmm. And that money at the treasury level used to be backed by collateral of gold, right? So there was a real asset that backed the treasury bonds,
Right.
right?
Right.
That said, okay, if we can't pay you back, here's the asset, just like your car from the other direction, you can come get it, right?
Yep.
But now the gold's not there anymore.
1933 happened.
Yes, and
now it's swapped out the gold. They took away, when they say they took away the gold, what they did is they swapped out gold back as backing the treasury bonds with the labor of the people.
Yeah, and they
That's
said
really a hard concept.
It is, and they said
really
we're backing this by
like,
the full faith and credit of the U.S. people, which means your labor.
Full faith and credit. Kind of ticks you off when you think about it.
A little bit.
It is what it is. Yeah, and all countries now have adopted that system.
Yes.
Those who have tried to go to a gold-backed system have met with a lot of resistance, as in
and death.
Those, yeah, and that's pretty much the resistance I was going to say. Is like you are do not pass go. Yeah.
Yeah, because we think the whole world is, on different systems because you use one named currency in one country and another named currency in the other country, but they're all going through central banks that our U.S. Fed is the primary controller of, but they're all the same thing. They're all backed by the International Monetary Fund. And it's all the same.
There are very few exceptions that we will have the system countries call enemies, but it's primarily because they will not adopt the central bank system, the global central bank system, IMF up to the BIS.
And wars are pretty much always based on that.
All wars are bankers' wars.
That's right. That's right. And that's starting to make more and more sense. The more I understand how the system works, the more I get what that means.
Very much. Very much.
Right, Estella?
So just to clarify then how it's related to us, individuals. We talked about corporations and government and all. It's pretty much promises to pay because they've pledged or traded our future labor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that money really isn't worth anything, right? That piece of paper has no inherent value in it. It's a promissory note. That's really what it is. It's an IOU from the U.S. government,
backed by treasuries, backed by the full faith and credit of the people, which is our labor.
Our labor.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yep.
Our labor are their promise that we will keep working to produce a taxation system, et cetera, et cetera.
Got it.
Yeah, and that's why taxes are necessary in order to support that system, even though it's really not used for what we think it's used for.
No,
but that's a conversation for another day too.
So. Remember, this is your SSS Social Security number person that is pledged to this. It's not you.
Oh man, you did go down the rabbit hole
that
there.
You can operate as lots of 9-digit people, but they are pledging.
9-digit
What's that?
Persons, not 9-digit people, right?
No, it's not you, the people. It's a 9-digit person.
Exactly.
And we'll learn about that as we go along, but that's a really important distinction of what is pledged for this. And what you are pledging when you are creating contracts.
And since you dove in there with that word, we should probably define it a little bit, all right? So the legal, this was a hard one for me to pick up. I had to do a lot of reading on it to convince myself this is really true. We tend to think that a people and a person is the same thing, right? That it's the live human thing that I'm looking at right now. That's not what a person is legally. So we just recently studied with somebody that explained this really, really well, I think. I wish I could give him credit for it, but I won't go to specific names. But the explanation was this. It's really simple. When you go get a personal bank account at the bank, try to do that without a Social Security number. You can't do it because the account is not your account. It's an account in the name of the 9-digit Social Security number person, which is not you. It's a thing that you were blessed with by the government to be able to manage that business that you didn't know.
You're connected to.
Right. That you didn't.
I won't use the word blessed. Sorry. I don't care what you No. But yes, it's what we're connected to, and we've agreed to be connected to.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And you couldn't function in commerce without it. You would only be able to barter and trade back and forth if you didn't have that person to work with. But person is not a physical human being. It's a business entity, just like a corporation is a business entity. And it can be utilized to open bank accounts, to do business, to transfer money back and forth, and all that kind of thing, which is useful if you know how to utilize it as opposed to be utilized by it or merge with it as if you are it, which is what almost everybody does.
Right. That's a great explanation, Ken. And, I always want to ask myself, okay, then what's the example of not being that? An example of not being that is walking next door and agreeing with the kid next door with a handshake that for, 2 pieces of silver or even $10 that he'll come over and cut your grass. Okay, it's a handshake. I didn't give a Social Security number. I didn't get his Social Security number. I didn't transact between my person, 9-digit person, and his person. It was people to people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not the person thing, but try going to a bank or any of the interaction commerce that you used, and you need the 9-digit person.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't you, but you agreed to be connected to.
Yep. And you can control it and wield it for your benefit.
Which I never knew I could do.
Yeah. Or you can get it wielded against you, against your benefit, if you don't,
or that.
If you don't know how to use it properly, which is what happens to most everybody, because most everybody doesn't have a clue how it actually works. Good. I'm going to go on to the next page.
So bottom line, it's a business given at birth.
Mm-hmm.
A person.
Yeah, provided for your use. It's not even yours. It's provided for your use, right? Just like your Social Security card is not yours. It's the government's, provided for your use.
That's right on there, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And your birth certificate does too. It's provided for your use. It's not your birth certificate.
So an ID. So it's an ID, not your ID. It's ID, not your ID.
I don't know that I would use the word ID in that situation. I mean, your passport can be used as an ID. Your driver's license can be used as an ID for your corporation, right? But your person entity, right? But the birth certificate and the Social Security card, I think legally can't be presented as ID. They specifically, but if you go to the DMV to get to register your car or to get a driver's license, they're going to ask you for your birth certificate and call it ID, but it really isn't.
It's not. Now, what's interesting is the passport and the license, the driver's license, they are asking you to put your image of your people, your man or woman. They're pretty much demanding that you connect your people with your person. Mm-hmm. That's the trick.
Yep.
And they, basically you can say, no, there are some exemptions where you don't have to put an image on there, but it's very difficult not to. We're just connecting our people person, our image by their system, that's the trick, committing to what's called joinder with the person with the 9-digit thing, which is a business. We just don't realize we're doing it. So we think it's us because they're calling it ID.
Yeah. And the system is set up to confuse the issue because, for example, the president of IBM or any corporation doesn't have to get an ID picture saying this is you. With IBM's EIN number, TIN number, tax identification number. But they want you to associate your picture, your people, with your Social Security number as if they're the same thing. So everybody knows that the president of a corporation is not the corporation. He's a separate entity that's managing the corporation. But the way they present it makes everyone think that the Social Security number is you, as opposed to it's something you use and manage.
So therefore, our people, by agreeing that we are one and the same when we're not, our people becomes responsible for anything that business SSN, Social Security number, does.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a good thing.
No, it's not.
Unless we learn to control it and use it for our benefit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Reina Stella, you were.
I just wanted to make sure that I am clarify the statement I made. It is an ID, not your ID. What I was trying to point out, and please correct me if I'm not grasping it. I was more so like even the BC, right? The birth certificate. It's a birth certificate. It is not your birth certificate. It
Correct.
Is a Social Security number, not your Social Security number.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to mention and say. Is that the understanding? It wasn't specifically ID. It was more so just sort of this separating the plastic or paper with you.
Yeah. But people think this is my birth certificate. That's how people present it. This is my Social Security number, my Social Security card. No, it's not. It's the government's Social Security card and the government's birth certificate. It has an explanation on it, a name that looks like me or that looks like my name, but it's not me. It's not mine. Right? It allows.
It's just an announcement of the creation of an entity and their system.
Yeah, it allows me.
They created for. Yeah,
it allows me some benefits because I have it in my hand, but it's not mine. It's just like like an ID for a corporate ID, right? If you're an employee of a corporation and they give you a card from the corporation saying, this is your ID card, you know that's not really me, right? It's got my name on it and it says I work here at this corporation, but you don't confuse it with yourself, right? But with the Social Security number and the way that's run, people merge those two things in their own brains, and the system now holds you accountable. But if you show somebody your IBM ID, everybody knows you're not IBM. There's no confusion there at all. But since this has your name on it and your picture on it, you think it's you.
It's your picture, but it's their name, actually, the way they're presenting it.
Exactly.
And that messes with anyone's head unless we know better.
Yes, it does.
That makes no sense if you would tell someone that and they didn't have some conception of what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
This time it wasn't me, okay? It was Eliza.
I wasn't in aisle 5. Okay.
But I'm very happy that we did cover it, actually.
Yeah,
it's actually a good concept to discuss for sure.
Mm-hmm. To begin to there's a whole lot more depth we can go in on that, and we will over time. but just you kind of have to sneak up on people with an understanding of it because it's so outside of how we've all been trained from the very beginning of life, you know?
Yeah. And that's where, this is where this next slide, this led right into this. We are not that 9-digit number name, but we are bonding ourselves to it. And that's what this third party surety is. The name, that name and the 9-digit number is what contracted. But then we're coming in and saying anything that you are doing with that number, okay, I'll go ahead and be responsible for me as the life man or woman. That's what surety is. It's a third party in a contract. And that's where it gets sticky when we do not know what we're doing. And we're trained, we are not indoctrinated to know what we're doing there because the system doesn't benefit from that.
Exactly. Okay, now, do anybody want to say anything more about this particular page?
Nope, I think we're good.
All right. So in today's financial systems, insurance companies often act as sureties, but they know they're doing it, right? They know they're taking responsibility to guarantee somebody else's obligation, right? And they charge a premium for that, right? So they get paid for taking that risk, and they're quite aware that they're taking that risk. The reality is you're doing that every day, but you don't know you're doing it, and nobody's paying you a premium for taking that obligation on. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
You're bound, you don't know you're bound to something that you don't need to be binded to, and you're not getting paid for it.
Now, would this be the equivalent, for example, of say I have, actually, I'll use a real example. When I got my first vehicle, I had my grandfather co-sign for me. I had no credit. I was 18. I had no credit. He had the credit. We had a really good relationship. It was like my dad, per se. And he co-signed for me. Now, do the corporations count on that tight relationship that you have with the co-signer? Where, of course, they have the car as collateral, but on top of that, now you have two people that have a really good connection. One, me, I will do everything to make sure I make the payment. Mm-hmm. And the co-signer, I'm not going to do anything that's going to hurt my grandfather.
I don't think
is that the same thing as surety?
Yes, I mean it's the same thing as surety, but I don't think
do they count on that?
I don't think the really close relationship between the two of you really matters to them. All they're saying is they can't rely on your credit rating, and as long as he's willing to put up his credit rating, and they're comfortable with his credit rating, then if you don't make the payments, they can come after him. So they're effectively making the loan to him, not to you, though. Mm-hmm.
But I still say that, think about it. The fact that they are involving another person mm-hmm. or another people.
Well, no, a person in this standpoint. It actually is the person.
Another person. They have the collateral. They have two persons that are going to be that are responsible mm-hmm. per se. I still mm-hmm. feel like I think they are also counting on that they're going to get everything they want from us just because there's an additional person behind it. They're
loving the fact that you can call on that relationship. Mm-hmm. But what they've really done, because contracting, this is going to get a little deep, has to happen between like parties. Mm-hmm. They can't. Their system, their company can't contract with people. They can only contract with live men and women. And in this case, what it's contracting with are two persons, two other companies, two other 9-digit numbers.
Yep.
One of those 9-digit numbers is standing as surety for the other 9-digit number. Behind both of those 9-digit numbers are the surety
Two more
people
sureties
that we're talking about.
We got
We've
lots of sureties involved in this.
relationship here. So it's something messier that we can go into at another time. But we have people sureties that are volunteering to be bound to the 9-digit company sureties that we don't realize aren't us.
Yeah. And also can analyze it. The reason I stress on it so much is because if my grandfather would say no, they would not provide the loan I need to get the car. Therefore, they're counting on that other surety or that other person.
Absolutely.
And this is just their statistics, of repayment kicking, and they don't care about us. They care about their actuarial numbers, right?
Right.
Exactly.
They're accountants.
Right.
Got it.
That's a great question, though, and a great example.
Absolutely. So bankruptcy, now this is interesting. Bankruptcy is a legal status where individuals or corporations are declared unable to repay their debts. Now, that's true. And I mean, as long as you understand what the word individuals actually means here. It's not individual people. It's individual persons or corporations, which are basically the same thing. They're a legal entity, right? So we people can't go bankrupt because we don't have anything to begin with. Our person has stuff in its name and it can go bankrupt. But they make you think you are going bankrupt. Modern bankruptcy laws allow for restructuring of debts, but often result in continued economic bondage of the individual or entity. Like student loans, for example, can't be gotten rid of in a bankruptcy. So you go through bankruptcy, you think you're going to get rid of all your debts, and you get out of it and you still owe your student loans just like you did before.
Crazy. But they say it's correctly on this individual or economic bondage of the individual or entity. It doesn't say of the people.
Yeah, as long as you understand.
You explained that well.
Yeah, as long as you understand what an individual is, just like what a person is. It's not you. It's not people. But yeah, they use the accurate term there. Just most people wouldn't understand what that accurate term actually means.
I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I would not have a couple of years ago.
Me too. Okay. This is okay. Was that part of the same one? No. So it's just saying basically that the process continues, and even if you claim bankruptcy, that doesn't mean you're out of the system and all is good. It's supposed to free you from all your past debts. They've made it harder, right? When were the laws passed? I can't remember when. Where a true Chapter 7, where it just wipes the slate clean, basically disappeared, and now pretty much everything is more of a reorganization than a true bankruptcy, where everything disappears.
Wow.
So the modern approach, reflecting the old system, is just confusing, but still kind of running the whole scam that's been run forever. Any summary anybody wants to do or follow up on that?
This has been a great conversation. I tell you that the fact that we've taken the time to clarify what the person is versus we as people, and how we can volunteer to be in joinder, which is having the system control us, or really come to comprehend that it is a person and that we do have the ability through study and learning that we can then control it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we want to do.
Yeah. And
because we can't own anything, but we can control it.
Right. And for everybody out there who's this whole idea of a person not being you, hang tight. It's okay. I battled it for a very long time. As an ex-accountant, it took me a long time to buy into this. And even after reading the legal literature and so forth, and we didn't show that tonight. That might be something we want to do sometime, to actually read the legal definitions that demonstrate to you what we're saying is really true. You've just been presented the data throughout your entire life in a way that causes you to think you're the person, so that they have their claws in you is basically what it comes down to.
Well said.
And in closing on my end, and it'll pretty much be related to what both of you guys said. So when we step back and we see like the same old patterns sneaking around in modern money, I repeat, understanding history will just make you smarter about finance.
Absolutely.
And it'll help you see how deep these systems run, and also maybe how to step outside of them. Ken and Eliza, always grateful for you, and the time we spent together was a great time today. I learned a ton.
Me too.
Repetition is great. Thank you so much for everything.
Fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Likewise, and thank you.
See you guys
Much love.
on number 23.
See you.
Oh.
Love you guys.
Oh.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
The views expressed in this Liberty Ark podcast are for informational and educational purposes only. They do not constitute legal or tax advice, and they may not reflect the official positions of anyone at all, really. We want to express our appreciation to the authors of the unpublished manuscript titled The Great International Heist, on which the Liberty Ark podcast is based. Rebecca and Jonathan Rodrigues, the authors, provide courses that go into much greater depth and are available at libertyarkpodcast.com/White Rabbit.